All right. So I'm Steely Stockmole, as I was introduced. Thank you. And I'm here today with Angela Lee. And so, first off, I think just kind of give all the people here just like who are you? What do you do at SMSU? What does your journey kind of looked like? Just a little blurb.
Yeah. Well, I'm Angela Lee, like she mentioned. I'm from Clark, South Dakota. It's a very small town. Had like 28 people in my graduating class, about 2 hours away from here, from Marshall. And I came to SMSU from 2016 to 2021 and then stuck around technically. Well, I guess I'm back here. So I've been at SMSU for a while. I played volleyball here for 6 years. That included a redshirt year, as well as COVID. So luckily for me, I got to play a really long time, and now I'm back. I was in the alumni director role for a year before moving into athletics. And now I am the assistant AD for marketing and engagement here.
That seems like a lot. We've gone through a lot of different stages, especially going through that COVID as an athlete. That's kind of crazy too. So, my next thing is just when you come to a new school, when you come to college, you're going to be a different person than you are now. So, what do you think is the biggest thing that has changed about you since you were a freshman here at SMSU?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say I've grown a lot as a person. Obviously, athletics played a very big role in that. And just honestly being independent and on your own, I think that also played a very big role. I'm super close with my family, and so wanted to stay close within that 2 hours to them. But having that independence was something that I think helped me develop as a person. And athletics, again, played a huge role in that as well. Just all the challenges and triumphs and going through that process, which I'm sure we'll get into more. But that definitely shaped me more as a person.
Yeah, I feel like I hear that from every athlete, no matter what, no matter how long they play, it impacts you. It totally does. And I feel like at SMSU, we have so many athletes here today and just that attend here. So, what do you think was one of the hardest things that happened in your athletic career? And how did you bounce back from that? How does that shape you to who you are today?
Yeah, so I mentioned I redshirted my first year, which was not in the plan, in my plan. You come here excited as a freshman, hoping to get to play. You don't know that, but obviously that's the opportunity you're chasing. And so we went to our first tournament, and that's kind of where they told me what they were thinking in terms of redshirting me. Pretty sure I cried on the bus on the way home. It was just like the world was ending, of course. And so that was a big, hard moment for me. Definitely a big challenge to kind of wrap my brain around is I'm going to have to, show up to practice. I'm going to have to show up to workouts and know that I'll never be the one stepping on the court when it matters. So that was really difficult, especially as an 18-year-old, and you're young still. You're not mature. You don't really know what the process of college athletics looks like yet. And so that was a tough pill to swallow, but really grateful for it. Kind of looking back, just because it pushed me to be better, essentially, and so really grateful for that, grateful for my coaches to kind of recognize that in me and that I would be a better player with that kind of extra time that I needed. Plus, I was playing under Taylor Reese, and if you guys don't know her, she was like a freak athlete for SMSU volleyball. So just got to learn a lot from her and from all my teammates. And so, yeah, I think that was a big challenge for me, but definitely a big part of my story as well.
A lot of people have to pivot. And I feel like that's something that we don't want to think about. Like right now, I know exactly what I want to do for my job. I know exactly the next few years, but that's not how it's going to work out. And I think that really transfers into your professional life as well. And so I'm just wondering what kind of shift in your mindset did you have to undergo to pivot, to make those changes, especially in your career now?
Yeah, life is all about pivoting because it changes all the time. You're never going to stay in a job for your whole life, right? Typically. And so you have to learn to adapt to whatever gets thrown your way, and that was really something that I learned obviously very early on. Is if you want something, then you have to stick to it. And obviously, it's easy to go the route of, well, I'm just going to quit. I'm not getting my way. I'm not getting what I want. So why am I putting myself through this? But that's the easy route, right? And so pivoting is hard, but it's challenging for a reason, and that's what makes you grow as a person. And whether that was all throughout my college career, my job career as well. You know, I've had 3 different jobs. I started out at an advertising agency in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Was there for 3 years, and then before I moved to SMSU in the alumni director role, and then was in that for a year, like I mentioned, and now I've been in athletics for about 8 or 9 months. So there's a lot of pivoting that happens, and that's not a bad thing. I want to remind all of you guys too, like, it happens, change happens, and I think ultimately you have to figure out what you want for yourself as a person, both whether that's in school or outside of school with your career.
I think one of the hardest things that prevent people from pivoting, from making those changes, is just not wanting things to end. And I feel like that's a big thing that I've even thought of, transition from high school athletics to college. Like, you're not going to be a volleyball player forever. I'm not going to throw track forever. So what did you do after your volleyball career ended that kind of like filled that void a little bit?
Yeah, I joke that after I was done with volleyball, I went through an identity crisis, but that is 100,000% true. And that's even as a student too. Like, you've been through high school, you've been through college for so many years, and that's your identity for so long. And then you're like, well, crap, now I have to enter this real world where I don't really know who I am yet. I'm going to leave my friends. I'm going to go into this new environment with new people, new challenges. And that's scary. It really is. And so being able to just tackle those moments with an open mind is, I think, what allowed me to kind of make that transition. And you really have to find like a different routine, if that makes sense. Like, obviously you're so used to going to classes, going to practice, going to whatever it is you go to. And when that changes, that's where you're kind of like, well, what do I do now? Like, what am I supposed to fill my time with? What am I supposed to do for my job? And those are all stressful questions, especially as a student coming out of college. And so finding a new identity is definitely hard, but I think I relied a lot on who I was as a person. Like, what did I want to do? I knew I wanted to be in a competitive environment. An advertising agency, super competitive, super fast paced. I loved working there. And then obviously coming back to SMSU, where I knew so many people, that was another big reason of coming back, is just that environment and those friendly faces made a big difference in just loving what I do when I come to work.
I think what you kind of just said to us really embodies what we've kind of entitled this live podcast, Beyond the Game. You know, beyond everything that you kind of leave behind. What does that mean to you, and how do you think you've kind of embodied that in your life after college?
Yeah, so like you said, you're not going to play your sport forever. You're not going to be a student forever. There is life beyond that, and that is such a small portion of your life when you really think about it, right? Like, you will be working for majority of your life, and so that's why it's so crucial in order to be able to have that mindset shift to say, well, I was this person for so long. Now I know I need to kind of make that transition, and how am I going to make it is kind of up to you, right? Like, what decisions am I going to make? Where do I want to work? Who do I want to be surrounded by? Those are all decisions you get to make, and that's the cool part, is you get to decide where you want to go. And if it doesn't work out, you can change that. Again, it's all up to you. And I think that's what's really cool about just moving past this portion of your life, or being beyond the game, is you get to find who you are outside of that, because that is such a big identity piece of you. But now you kind of have to grow and figure out who you are outside of that.
And right after you graduate, that's super daunting. Right after everything's kind of like it's like you're starting fresh. And I feel like we're all told a lot of different things about how to attack that, how to move on to that next stage of life. What do you think is the one thing that really helped you when finding that first job, when making those first big decisions after college?
Yeah, so it was kind of unique because I was searching for my first job during COVID. So that landscape is probably different for you guys right now. But technically, I decided to be done. I was going to have a fifth year, which was taken away by COVID. And so that was a really big decision I had to make was, are you going to be done and call this, the end of your career when you didn't even know it was going to happen? Or what are you going to do? And so I basically just started reaching out to anywhere that had internship opportunities. I knew that I just needed more experience in that. I didn't have a ton of jobs in high school or throughout college just because so much of my time was taken up by a sport. And so I definitely wanted to be able to get that internship experience before jumping into a full-time job. And again, that was a big leap. That was a big change from going to being busy all the time, being in school, being surrounded by friends, to working a desk job essentially. And like, it's just such a big change in that sense. But yeah, I would say I just looked for any opportunity I could that I found interesting and actually found interesting. Again, you're not going to love every job you do, but I think it's the experience that's what really makes, the rest of your career a little bit easier is just being able to learn under others.
And I think that's hard because a lot of people want to have that control. We want to know what's going on and all these things, but depending on your job, you might not be the best person in the room. And I think that's different too. Like on the court, you might have been you had a great career. You could have taken those years, but then you step into the desk job and you're like, "Oh, I don't know what to do." What were the biggest things you did to build that confidence in a different setting?
Yeah, I had really, really great bosses, which was fantastic for me, and strong female bosses as well, who I really looked up to. And that is obviously true in my current role with Jen. And at my advertising agency, my boss was just someone who I really leaned on a lot. And she had so much experience. And I mean, yes, my boss is obviously that bigger kind of person that you look up to. But I found a lot of friends too within my workspaces who I was also able to look up to at the same time and have a good time with. So I would say surrounding yourself with those people, that's what really kind of makes it easier to not feel so intimidated. Is just again learning from them, being open to hearing the other people's ideas, and just being open to learning and growing.
Building relationships is so important, and no matter what you do, you can be an accountant, you could be a pro athlete, anything. I know what I want to do. I want to be a sports broadcaster. I want to do stuff like this. And I'm wondering, what is the relationship that you have made throughout your whole life that you think has really impacted you most?
Oh, one relationship? Oh my gosh. Uh, I mean, the relationships I had with my coaches definitely made a very big impact on me as a person, because basically they're kind of like the people who look over you when you're away from home, and that's a big deal. It's a big deal because they have so much say in what you do as well. I mean, they're guiding you through this process, and you're kind of hoping that they know that and they respect that and they know you as a person. And so being able to have strong relationships with them really allowed me to, again, just progress in my career as an athlete. And then after school too, like I would use them as references for my jobs. And that's a really cool thing as well, is being able to form those relationships with the people who, again, you look up to, whether that's your coaches, whether that's your teammates, whether that's professors, and having those people to really count on when it matters when you're making that transition.
And I think having those big relationships, those people that really influence you, it allows you to really be better at working in a collaborative environment, working with others. And I know one thing I learned kind of looking you up a little bit, you've obviously had a lot of experience in the new kind of digital age. Can you kind of talk about how you have grown in just understanding how to utilize social media, how to be creative, and how to do it with others?
Yeah. So I knew working is not all that it's cracked up to be. I will say that. I don't know if people make it seem like that, but it's not. Unless you're doing something that you love again. And I wanted to find something outside of work that I was still able to be competitive with, be creative with, and just kind of have fun with. And so, yeah, utilizing social media. Obviously, social media is a huge thing in today's generation. A lot of people are doing that as their jobs, which is really cool too. If that's something you want to look into, I would highly encourage it. It's a form of creativity. You get to do whatever it is you want to do with it. And kind of personally, I've been able to tie like an online presence with a passion hobby of mine, with fitness. And so obviously I'm very much into weightlifting, working out, just staying healthy, active lifestyle. And so being able to kind of be creative with that and kind of help other people and show that to them how they can be and live that lifestyle has been really fun. I've also been able to transition that into online coaching as well. And so that's been another cool part of it is you don't have to stick to one thing. You can do multiple things if it's stuff that you love doing. So I've really enjoyed that piece of it too, and just getting certified as a personal trainer and working with people all over the country. That's been really cool, is just forming those relationships and having kind of that life outside of work that you look forward to doing.
And I think it's so fun to do something new, start something. Like you made it. And a lot of those things can be kind of hard. Like, how do I coach someone on a screen? Like that's kind of, were you self taught in a lot of those skills, or what were the things that you did to learn?
No, I was not self-taught. So again, it was a goal of mine. It was something that I wanted to do was, get my certification to personal train. And I still wanted to do my job that I'm currently doing. And so I figured that online coaching was kind of the best route for me to take with that. And you kind of, with anything you start, it's kind of just like you have to start it or else you're never going to know if it's going to work out or not. And that's the same with my social media. That was a big thing that I kind of went back and forth on. Do I want to do that? Do I not want to do that? There's already so many people out there on social media, so many accounts that are constantly throwing information in people's faces. What's going to make me stand out from everyone else? And so I battled with that a lot before kind of taking that leap of faith and just like, again, why not? Why can't I do what everyone else is doing? And so that's been fun just to kind of find my voice on that platform. And yeah, you just figure it out as you go. You learn from others. I've spent a ton of time just watching what other people do, because there's so many trends out there, right? There's so many people who are trendsetters. And so watching what they do and being able to take lessons from what they put out to their audience, that has, I think, been a really key part in me also just being able to find my voice and how I can be as helpful as they are.
Obviously, we can communicate in how we talk, in our actions. And I know one thing I've learned a lot in my comm classes, shout out all the comm professors, is that listening can be even more important than what you say. Can you think of an example in your professional life in college where listening really helped you?
Yeah, I would say, again, with anyone who I looked up to as a mentor, whether that was my coaches, whether that was, just people who were older than me, my teammates, professors, just being able to, again, like you said, step back for a second and just kind of digest what other people are saying. I think that's a very valuable tool to have because it makes you more kind of you're able to like understand what other people's opinions are. And that's very important. I think sometimes we get caught up so much in what we think is right, what we think we should be doing. But other people's insights are super valuable. So I think listening has been a big tool that I've used to just be able to, again, learn from others, like you said. And that makes a big difference when you're, whether you're going for a job or whether you're just making a big decision in life and need someone to lean on, like they listen to you, but hearing someone else's advice in that same scenario can be super valuable at the same time.
So obviously in the athletics department, you're going to do a lot of listening. You're going to do a lot of just like, what are your ideas? What are we trying to accomplish here? What has been the biggest kind of thing you've had to overcome entering into that space, like more of like a big girl job, you know?
Yeah, a big girl job is definitely right. With any job you go into, I feel like you kind of have this nervousness about being around people who have been in that job longer, or been in that space longer, I should say. And you just kind of, again, lean back, take a second. Jen offered some really great advice when I first showed up, is just like, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't feel like you have to jump in right away. Which for me, that's a big part of my personality, is I'm such like a type A go-getter. Like I want to get organized. I want to figure out what my role is. I just want to jump in and be as helpful as I can. And she's like, no, just take a step back, see how, we have this department set up first, and then see how you can, be a valuable component within that department by asking questions. So I think that's a huge piece of advice that I still take into, other aspects of my life outside of my career. And so, yeah, I would say it's hard, but at the same time, it's, again, valuable to just lean into what other people are doing, ask them those valuable questions, and then kind of hit the ground running, and you figure it out as you go.
Working with a team is obviously what you do here at SMSU, and then you kind of your own thing that you do with your personal training. Can you think of things that are similar between those two, like in how you approach your work alone versus in a team?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities, I would say. Even just working in the athletic department, you have this level of independence because people know they can count on you, which is really cool, especially being someone who's younger in that department. You kind of almost feel like when you first get there, well, I'm gonna have to prove myself to my colleagues, so they know that I can do this job. They have faith in me to do this job, stuff like that. So that was kind of another big thing going into it. Is I'm young. I'm coming in here with not a ton of experience necessarily working in athletics. Obviously, I was an athlete, so that gave me, some of that information that I needed in order to be in that position. But yeah, it's hard, but I think a level of independence is really something that kind of connects those two. And it has allowed me to kind of sprout off and do this other thing that I'm interested in, I love doing, because I'm able to rely on myself, and know that I can do that kind of outside of my full-time job too.
In your response there, I kept thinking of, I don't know why, I just keep thinking of respect. And I feel like it's two-sided. Like you can gain respect, you can give respect. So, what do you think is the biggest way that you have been able to gain respect in a professional work environment? And how do you give respect to your colleagues?
Mm-hmm. I would say how I've been able to gain respect is, again, kind of proving who you are. And that's just who I am as a person. If I say I'm going to do something, I get it done. I do it to the best of my ability. I will always put in 100% effort into that. And that was kind of just driven into me being an athlete and just growing up in athletics and things along those lines. And so I would say every time I showed up and I delivered something, it was always high quality. And that's what you guys should strive for throughout life, is just showing up as your best self. I know at times it's going to be really hard to do that. It's going to feel like you're giving a lot of you when maybe at times you're not getting a lot from people. And that's also something that's been interesting in just working with a variety of people, is kind of that give and take. But as long as you're showing up as your best self and you're putting, your best work out there, you will gain that respect. And vice versa, just giving respect to others. And that's just whether that's any of my coaching clients, whether that's any of my colleagues here at work. People deserve respect. And, when you give that, they're definitely going to be more receptive to just having that relationship with you. And it's going to make your working job a whole lot easier.
It's important to give 100%. I totally believe that. I think about that a lot when I take on new things. I'd rather do 5 things and give 100% than 10 and give 50. And I think that has a lot to do with balance. So, how have you incorporated balance into life after college, and what has been the hardest part with that?
Yes, that's a great question. I obviously have a lot on my plate right now. And kind of outside of all of that, you have life responsibilities and you have like I'm a wife, I'm a dog mom, like just fun things like that. And so finding times for those things is super important too. And just having a social life outside of work. And so I would say I'm still trying to work on that balance because it is so hard. A full-time job is your, 8 to 5, or when working athletics, you work in the evenings, you work on weekends. And so time management is a huge, huge tool that I've learned from my freshman year, from high school, like just carrying out through all aspects of my life. Time management and just figuring out, what are my priorities? What do I want my priorities to be? And then how am I going to divvy that out throughout the day? And sometimes some days are better than others. And sometimes you're going to have to drop things off your plate that you just can't get to. And so that's something that's been hard for me too, just because I am if it's on my plate, I'm going to do it. But I try to remind myself, like, you're human. You don't have to do it all. You don't have to be, there for every single thing. And that's okay. Show up where you can, and that's what matters. So finding that balance is tough at times, but as long as you put kind of priority behind what you actually want to do with your time every single day, I think that makes it a little bit easier.
So, what is your favorite thing that you do to kind of unwind? And what are your recommendations for kind of implementing that in your day? Because you shouldn't just do it when you have time, it should be a part of every day of your professional life.
Yeah, and this is obviously probably very different for everyone. But my favorite way to kind of unwind is working out, and that sounds very strange, but it's honestly a time where I put my headphones in after a long work day, and I listen to my music, I get my workout in, and I literally turn my brain off. And that is what helps me unwind. So then I can go home and I can be a good wife. Then I can go home and I can go play with my dog. Like, it's finding that me time, what brings me joy, and what do I value, so that I can implement that into my life so I can be better for everyone else. And so I think having that time has been super crucial to me. And plugging it in is hard too with everything else going on. I also live 50 miles away from here, so commuting every day takes another hour and a half out of my time, which obviously is hard. So you're finding, again, that balance. So either I'm gonna get up at 5 a.m. and I'm gonna work out and I'm gonna get that me time in, or I'm gonna go after work. I'm gonna pack my workout bag before I go to work, no exceptions. On my drive home, I go straight to the gym before I do anything else. And so it's having discipline, because a lot of the times motivation is not there. When you go home, you're kind of ready to go home after a long work day. So yeah, I lean a lot on discipline in those aspects.
We're going to kind of start rounding this off. We've had such a great conversation. I think it's so interesting how the different paths people take after college, how everything affects you, and how you've grown. What are 3 words that you would use to describe your life right now?
Oh gosh, right now. I would say fun as one, just because a lot of things in my life I enjoy doing. Like, enjoy going to work every day. I enjoy doing my workouts. I enjoy coaching clients. Like, I enjoy all those things. So I'm having fun while I do those things. I would also say I mean, family is a big one for me. Finding time to constantly go see my parents, my brothers, finding time to spend time with my husband's family. Like, we are just such big family oriented people. So that's definitely another piece of our lives that we hold really close to our hearts. And then I don't know, I would just say like challenge, which is like totally different than the first two. But yeah, it's a lot. Again, what I have on my plate is a lot. It's challenging. I wouldn't want it any other way. That's just who I am as a person. I love being challenged. I love kind of, again, putting myself in those competitive environments because that's where I thrive. And so, yeah, I would say challenge is another word.
Okay, so I think this is going to be my last question now. So I want to give you a tougher one. I think we all have a lot more in common than we think we do. And we're always growing, and it can be kind of vulnerable to say, I need to work on this. I've been trying really hard to get better at this. So what is one thing that you have really been trying to grow at that you don't think you're quite there yet, and how do you plan on attacking it?
Oh, I'm sure my husband can answer this very easily. I would say I've been trying to be more of a morning person. This is probably going to sound so dumb, but honestly, I'm a night owl through and through. I like to stay up late, and then I do not care for early mornings. But I have said for so many months, years probably, that I want to be a morning person. I want to get up and like start my day earlier. And then that just, you hit snooze like 5 times, and you don't make that transition. You don't change that routine. So yeah, I mean, that's probably a very generic, not super serious answer, but I would say that's something that I've struggled with.
So then, very last thing here. We've really loved let's give her a quick round of applause. So happy you're able to come. Just this last thing, what is the biggest thing that you hope any college student in here, really anyone in particular, can take away from your story thus far?
I would say that it's a journey, and everyone's journey is very unique. And that's what makes it fun, and that's what makes it challenging, is being able to be who you are and be involved in what you are involved in, but still learning lessons for yourself. Everyone's gonna kind of go through, again, highs and lows, and it's finding yourself in those moments that you all are gonna go through it. And I'm sure, some of you have already gone through those instances where it's what you want, it's what you value, and that's different for everyone. And so through anyone's journey is just finding who you are, just like I've been able to find myself.
If I want to take that next step and talk to a doctor or talk to a therapist or someone like that, are those like advices or like those links given on the website to those people after you take that assessment and it's analyzed?
Absolutely. So if you take an assessment, it'll plug in the different resources for you. And then further down in the page, it will tell you community resources that we have on the page that can be plugged in that certain area. There's also a red button up at the top that says if you needed help right now, who to reach out to. So that's where we're going to have like 911, 988 is listed out there. So we have some national hotlines that are listed as well so that you can have those conversations. But yes, the community resources are aimed to then pop up for different topics and things like that.